Welcome, welcome, everyone. Welcome to the second tasting, second week. I guess it's still second week because I'm recording this on Sunday, the 18th. Second week of the Valle box or month. We're tasting this guy. This is a beautiful painting with a Chinese writing, 2024 Di Barro Valli Xiao Petit Rouge is what we're tasting today. Uh, and in case you are wondering why there's a Chinese writing on a Valdiasta wine, we'll get into that later. But it's a Singaporean artist who there was an wine label design competition. They held at their winery, and this Singaporean artist ended up winning that competition. So they actually named this wine in a Chinese writing. Is that an appropriation? I don't know, but the wine is damn good though. So I picked it, and it's a very different style from what we had last week. So that's why I picked it. But yeah, it's a little strange. So in case you were wondering why there's a Chinese writing on an Italian wine, that's why. But anyways, first and foremost, I want to before we get into the wine and everything else, I just want to apologize. I know this was supposed to be a Zoom tasting this week on Wednesday, but long story short, I just got back from Chile yesterday, and I had my bottle got confiscated at the airport, so did not make it to Chile. I had intended on doing my actual tasting from Chile, but it didn't make it to Chile, so I had to push it back. But nonetheless, it's actually a good thing because on Wednesday I was in the I was at a wine. I was visiting winemaker on top of in Itata Valley in Chile, and there was no internet connection up there, or internet connection was very spotty and very bad. So it would have been very sketch. It would have been very hard, and it was in the middle of nowhere, so it would have been really hard to find internet connection and do all of that. So it all worked out. It's probably a good thing that I didn't have the wine and try to do the Zoom. I probably would have had to cancel it anyway. Um, but anyways, either way, I apologize. So you're getting another recording this month. But anyway, starting from next week, next Wednesday, we'll go back to the regular programming. We'll do Zoom, but just now. Sorry, apologize. Anyways, just a few announcements. I know we have another tasting coming up next Wednesday, but I need to wrap up next month's invoice. I know it just went on 3 days ago, but I'm only here next week and I need to get back to South Carolina. So I need to wrap that up and then get all the wines processed. So if you're planning on not joining us, just let me know. Or if you are planning on joining us, just go ahead and pay the invoice right away. I'm going to start probably reaching out to people right away to get that all wrapped up. In case you were wondering what next month is going to be, I don't. Fingers crossed. I think we can pull. I can pull this off. But I was so. By the way, my trip in Chile was unbelievable. I had I mean, cycling part, the biking part was incredible as well. But actually, I visited winemakers, three winemakers afterwards, and I had a like inspiring. I came back feeling really inspired and energized, and feeling good about what I do, refining purpose behind what it is that I do. And I mean, what those guys are doing, we can talk more about that in the Zoom session next week. But yeah, what those guys are doing down there, I found it to be unbelievably inspiring and heroic, and I feel really honored to be able to be the ambassador for them and storyteller for them, and introducing people outside, people, wine drinkers out there to those kind of wines. So anyways, long story short, I'm going to try to put together another Chile box uh, with those three winemakers that I visited. So it's going to be kind of a recreation of my trip down there because I have so many pictures and I have videos with them as well. So I thought it would be fun to kind of relive it, or maybe it's just a way for me to, you know, do a photo slideshow for you guys. But anyways, yeah. So that's gonna be the theme. I'm pretty sure I can pull that off. I think there's enough stock. I checked a few of them, but so yeah. anyways, either way, please wrap up the invoices so we can get that next month all squared away. Uh, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to do this before I left for Chile, but Bosch is on. So Bosch is starting next month. I'm gonna send that invoice next week, and then we'll get that all wrapped up and get started at the beginning of February. So it will be distributed with the next month's wines, and then we'll get started with our first tasting on Friday, February 6th. So in the 3 months on. So yeah, those are the only two really announcements I have. Um, so let's get into the wine. All right. So where are we? Um, and yeah, I also apologize about this. I really wanted to do. I mean, we are doing this back to back, but I was hoping that we could do this really within a week and talk about it because last week's wine, the Goujon Tourette, was a blend, mostly Petit Rouge dominant blend. And this week's wine is 100% Petit Rouge, but it's also very different style. So I just thought it would be really fun to do this Petit Rouge back to back. But yeah, so try to remember, or maybe rewatch the recording, just kind of refresh your memory, but try to remember what that wine tasted like. And then as we go into this week's wine, because these are made from the same grape essentially, but they're very different in their style, completely different. And I thought it was really striking that you could see these differences within the same variety. It's really fun to do it that way. So, anyways, all right. So you will get a map, of course, all these attachments in the email. But we're in Italy, right? This whole month we're spending in Valle, which is in the northwestern part of Italy, above Turin. You will see that kind of yellow little sliver, like you can't even really see it. So if you zoom out and look at the whole map, I mean, look at how small of an area that is. So it is indeed the smallest wine producing region. It is also the least populated region in all of Italy. So we're talking about a very, very small part of Italy. But wines here are incredible, as I found out. But yeah, really interesting culturally as well. As you can see, it's all right up on the Alps, the Mont Blanc, Matterhorn. Some of the highest peaks in Europe is over there, just behind Aosta, which means the some of the Europe's highest vineyards are actually found right here in Valle d'Aosta. So we're talking about a very high elevation mountain wine, which is exactly the kind of the wines and terroir that I really like. And that's part of what excited me to come here or to put a box together around this region. But that's where we are. Two major grapes. I mean, there are a bunch of different things going here. Of course, there are international varieties, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and all those things. But really, we're talking about Petit Arvine and Petit Rouge. Petit Rouge is the red grape that we're talking about. We're tasting today. Petit Arvine is a white grape, which we have a bottle of this month, so we'll taste that next month. Oh, and I also forgot to mention, for next 3 weeks, starting from this week and then next 2 more weeks for the rest of the month, it's the same producer. We only have Di Barro. Um, and a couple reasons behind that. I mean, I just thought because Di Barro makes all their ones the exact same way, so I thought it was a really fun way to actually taste through different varieties. Because these are varieties you don't find anywhere else in the world. It's just Valle d'Aosta. I mean, where else have you tasted Petit Arvine or Petit Rouge, right? So to taste them made the exact same way by the same person, so you get to really see the kind of varietal characteristic and differences between the three, which I thought was fun. But also logistically speaking, there are not that many producers here, and not that many producers that make it into US either. So Di Barro was the one that I found to be the wine spoke to me the most, as well as wines here also are not cheap. Valle d'Aosta is not, I mean, because it's so far in the mountains, it's just, a lot of labor in the middle of nowhere. So the cost goes up. So to find in the range that made sense for the box, I could really only get it with the Di Barro. There are other ones that are cheaper, but it wasn't as good. So yeah, so I made it. So this month we only have two producers represented, Goujon and Di Barro, but you know, the trust me, all the wines are delicious, and I think they're kind of fun this way to taste through all of them together. Anyways, so that's where we are up top northwest in Italy, Valle d'Aosta. And they're also attaching the map of Valdeosa. So it's divided into two. If you look at the top half, that's the actual just map with the different cities and how it's laid out. You see that river that's running through, that's a Dora Baltea River, which is a Po River's tributary. Po River, the very famous river that runs through the Piedmont region, Barolo Barbaresco of Piedmont, which is just south of Val d'Aosta. And essentially all the wine regions, not just the wine regions, I mean, all the cities and where people actually live, very small few people that actually live here, all the towns are basically built around this river. Because we're talking about a valley. I mean, the Valle also literally means in Italian, Valley of the Aosta or Aosta Valley. So this is a valley that's formed by a glacier. So there used to be glacier here. As it retreated or it melted away, it left this huge kind of a carving in the mountains, and then this valley is in the Alps, and this is essentially where this valley is. Um, as you go left towards La Salle and Mourget, the elevation gets higher, as you can see on that map. The Mont Blanc is right there. Matterhorn is on that just a little bit of east, but it's also up north as well. So obviously the elevation gets higher, more north and west you go. And the elevation gets a little bit lower as you go east and south into the lower valley. But nonetheless, all across the board, we're talking about a very high elevation mountainous wine. Um, and of course, as you go more left in the higher elevation, white wines have to come from here. So Mourgex, La Salle, you're really going to see more of the white wine. And then from the Central Valley and the Lower Valley, you're going to see a lot more red being planted, which makes sense because it's a little bit warmer. If you look at the bottom half of that Aosta Valley map, you're going to see the town of Aosta, which is what this valley is named after. And then just left of that is, I don't really know how to pronounce it, is Imaville. Imaville was. There's a little town. Just left of that, north of the river, is essentially where we are, where this winery is. In a little town called Saint Pierre is where we are. So we're in Tourette. There's a little map legends on the bottom left of that second map. It tells you Tourette. So last week we tasted Tourette, right? Courgean's Tourette. So that's where this came from. So we're in the same place as same region as where we were last week. But I mean, this is when we're talking about Petit Rouge. I mean, this is where Tourette is really what they're known for. So that's where we are. As you can imagine, the weather here is very, I mean, there are microclimates here and there, obviously, when you're in a very elevation mountainous range, depending on the exposition, the slope, and all those things matter and how high you are within the elevation. But in general, obviously, a very continental climate, a very marginal climate. So hot, warm, sunny, all the UV rays from the high altitude, but then it gets quite cold in the winter as well as at nighttime. So a huge diurnal shift that happens here. So that's what makes the wine here really desirable, because you get all this ripeness. There's not a problem with the ripening the grapes, even though it is quite high in the elevation because the sunlight, the UV rate is so strong. But then all that cool air, night temperature, dropping of the night temperature keeps all the acid and freshness and all that. So you end up getting these like really, and also it's on the slopes of the mountainside, so you get a lot of minerality. Um, Not a lot of topsoil, so you're just on a bedrock. So um, a lot of mineral driven, high acid, ripe grape kind of wine, ripe fruit kind of wine, which is exactly the kind of wines that I like to drink. So yeah, that's where we are. Talk about who makes this wine. I'm also on the third picture number 3, De Barro, named De Barro. That's actually the family's house and the winery that's there. I mean, look at how beautiful that is. I mean, and also look at how in the middle of like a mountain range that is. So yeah. And then picture number 4, vineyard in Tourette. This is actual vineyard that this fruit for this wine came from. So terrace vineyard on the side of a mountain. And the picture number 5 is Andrea and Elvira. So Current generation, this is they've only been around since 1999, so rather a new winery. They bought a different winery with a different name, but then they changed their name. But Elvira and Andrea, these two, mom and dad, are the ones who bought the winery. But the person who actually makes the wine is the next picture. If you look in the picture number 6, Francesca and Matteo, his brother and sister. Matteo is the one who is in charge of the winemaking. So mom, Elvira, and the dad, Andrea, founded the winery in 1999. And then mom and daughter, Elvira and Francesca, they kind of oversee the administrative the duties as well as the marketing, kind of business side of the winery. And then the son, Matteo, handles the winemaking and the viticulture and all of that. And in case you were wondering what dad does, Andrea, I actually didn't know this, but just learned that he's actually the mayor of St. Pierre, the town that they're in. So he's too busy, I guess, to be involved in winemaking. Matteo learned viticulture from his parents, who bottled their first vintage in 1999. So he's basically learned from family, just been growing up in a family winemaking family. Today, they farm 4 hectares across 10 parcels, producing around 20,000 bottles annually. So we're talking about a very, very small winery. I mean, all the wineries in this area are pretty much very, very small. If you remember last week, the average size of vineyard holding in this area is it's about like zero point 0.5, half of hectare. So very, very small. A lot of people just hold very small vineyards and then make wines for themselves as well as just small for neighbors and their town. So not much wine that is made here in the first place, but especially a lot of the wines do not make it into, or they don't get exported because they get consumed there because so little amount of wine is made here. Okay. Also, picture number 7, Matteo with artists. So that is actually the Singaporean artist who won the competition. So in case you were wondering who drew this label design and who this is named after is that woman, that lady. By the way, the Xiao Hongju, I didn't explain, but that literally in Chinese translation means, so Petit Rouge means little red in French, right? If you remember last week, this is, even though it's Italy, the language here, the official language of 2 languages, both French and Italian are spoken here. It's a very French in terms of it's a winemaking style. There's a lot of French sensibility in this wine, just like it was last week. I mean, the last week's producer's name was Grosjean, right? Um, but anyways, Petit Rouge is little red. So Xiao Hongju in Chinese in translation is Xiao uh, is little, Hong means red, and the Ju means just like an alcoholic beverage. So it's literally a translation of what little petit wine made from Petit Rouge is actually in Chinese it would be Xiao Hongju essentially. I'm sure I'm butchering the Chinese pronunciation, so for any of you Chinese speakers out there, please excuse my pronunciation. All right, so what is this wine? This is 100% Petit Rouge, so a little different from last week. Last week was a blend, I think it was 80% if I remember correctly, and then 20% of other indigenous varieties like Fuman, Mayolat, and all those things. But 100% Petit Rouge, 20 years old, grown on granitic soil. The soil type here in Valle changes depending on where you are, right? Obviously, the lower you go in the valley floor, you're going to have a lot more alluvial soil. And then higher you go, you're going to get in the mid part, kind of, you're going to get granite, but there's also clay and limestone as well. But this one is grown on a granitic soil on a high altitude. We're talking about 2,297 feet is where the vineyard is at. So pretty high. This is a bit of an unusual style of Petit Rouge. So last week, and we'll talk about this, and you'll see when we get to tasting it. But last week was like really ripe. Like we didn't talk. We even talked about like a little bit of like almost just touch of overripe last week. But here, this style of Petit Rouge that Matteo, they also Di Barro makes another bottling, the actual regular Petit Rouge that's much riper than this. But he wanted to make a much lighter, brighter, kind of an early picked Petit Rouge. So that's basically what this is. So this is picked earlier than the regular line of Petit Rouge that he makes. Just kind of showcase this like lighter, brighter profile and the kind of versatility of a Petit Rouge. And I actually enjoyed this more than their regular Petit Rouge. So that's why I picked this. Um, but yeah, like I said, picked early to make it a lighter, brighter, kind of a higher acid style, which I really enjoy. Uh, there are only about 1,000 bottles of this produced each year, so very, very small production. And then here's what's interesting about the Barro. So the name Di Barro literally means from the barrel in the local dialect, and it refers to the kind of the traditional wooden barrels used in the Valley. But at this point, it's just kind of an homage to the tradition only now, because in 2006, Di Barro decided to use exclusively stainless steel tanks only. Whole point was that they want to move away from kind of putting less of a like winemaker's touch or like so much manipulation on the wine. They really wanted to focus on kind of just a pure varietal expression of these different varieties that are grown there. And then the focus is really all about the fruit and the freshness. So that's part of the reason why I thought this would be super fun to kind of taste through three different varieties, all made in stainless steel. So no oak, no other kind of flavors coming in. It's really all about the fruit. Um, and then made by the same person, same people at the same place. So that's what we have here. This is 6 days on the skins. Regular Petit Rouge does get a little bit longer. I don't know exactly how many days, but it does get a little bit longer maceration as well. So this is a shorter maceration, picked early. Again, it's all about kind of lighter, brighter style of Petit Rouge. Unfiltered, unfined, touch of sulfites, at bottling. That's what we have here. All right, let's taste the wine. Let me pull up the grid. Okay, there you go. So from the top. Appearance. This wine is clear. I don't see a lot of haziness here at all. This one I'm going to call this clear. Intensity. I mean, it's like a lower end of medium. I can pretty much see the letters pretty clearly on my keyboard. But my light here is very, very bright. Yeah, I want to call it as far as calling this pale. Yeah, I'm going to call this a medium. I'm going to call this medium, maybe medium minus. But medium intense color of, call this ruby. Really no other observation. No sediments, no bubbles, nothing else. Looks like a clean red wine. All right, notes. Mm. Okay, this one is clean. This one is sound. But I will say this one is not squeaky clean to me. It's blown off quite a bit, but I still get a little bit of it. But there's a touch of reduction here. Makes sense, right? This is all stainless steel tank, fermented and aged and all of that. But it's not like squeaky clean. There's a touch of this kind of wildness, touch of this kind of feral wildness going on here. So yeah, if you are just opening this up, I'll say, I mean, it blows up pretty quickly, but maybe decanted. Just swirl it around a little bit. But yeah, for all intents and purposes, I'll call this one is clean, this one is sound, but it is not squeaky clean, is what I'll say. Intensity. Like I'm about here. So it's like just off the glass, right? Actually. Yeah, right there. So, I mean, it's pretty decent. It's like bordering on medium plus, but I won't quite go all the way to medium plus. Yeah, I don't know. It's actually, yeah, it's like right there. Yeah, I'm gonna call this actually medium plus. It's somewhere between medium plus, but leaning more towards medium plus. It could go either way, but I'm gonna call this medium plus intense. Aromas of, what do we get? I guess I'm like rose petals. There's something like a pretty Not super like overly floral, but I do get like a touch of like a rose petal, maybe a little like chamomile. There's some sort of like little pretty flowery, ethereal top thing going on over here. No real like green fruit, no citrus, no stone fruit, no tropical, but red fruit. Here we go. I mean, to me, this is like all the peak red fruit, like raspberry, wild strawberry. There's some cranberry here, red cherry, red plum, like all kinds of red fruit going on. Not much of black fruit. And again, this is the difference, right? Last week we had some red fruit, but like a lot of black fruit also is thrown in there, some of both. The wine felt a little bit like to put it in the term of music, I'll get to have a lot more bass notes last week's wine. This week's wine is much more treble notes, right? It's like much more brighter, much lighter, all red, not much black fruit. In fact, like yeah, I don't get any black fruit here right now. All I get is just all red. Um, Character of the fruit, fresh, ripe, but it's not like overripe. Like last week, like we talked about how like it was really ripe. It was almost like peak and going over to like the end of the season. But like to me, this is like the beginning of the season when the fruits are just starting to come in their season, like just at the beginning, where it's not like I mean it's ripe, but you get like touch of that kind of like still the fresh, just starting to ripen up fully, kind of a thing. So like yeah, I'll call this the beginning of the season, fresh, ripe fruit. Uh, Herbaceousness. I wouldn't necessarily call this herbaceous or herbal, but like there's touch of like something like vegetal. You know what it is? It's more like it's like watermelon rind or like strawberry white, like that white part, like white green part of strawberry. When rest of it is really ripe and delicious, but like right at the bottom of it, that there's a little bit of that kind of like vegetal green, white strawberry. Like I get that. Like to me, there's a lot of that vibe. Like I wouldn't call this like, you know, grass or like pyrazine or like leaf or anything like that. But there's some of that kind of like the savory vegetal part of the fruit is what I get here. Yeah, like strawberry white. Like that to me, like strawberry white, even the like green, like little leaf that's attached to the strawberry. If you ever like smell that, like if you ever chewed on it, like I guess some of that. Still, mostly very, very white fruit, but like just a touch of that. No real spice. I don't get anything spice. Everything is just very, just kind of clean, straightforward. Again, that's what this is all about. Stainless steel, purity, freshness. Like that's what these guys are after. Uh, Not hugely minerally, but I do get some rocky here. I do get some of the other kind of like whetstone. Yeah, I do get some rocks here. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, just really clean, really fresh, really pure kind of red fruit, touch of rose petals on top, and then some of that kind of like vegetal, like a white strawberry, the green strawberry part is what I get on this thing with a little bit of rocks. All right, let's get to the palate. Mm, Which one? This one is delicious. I love this one. It is just like so bright and delicious. Uh, Sweetness. This one is dry. It's bone dry. There's no sugar in there whatsoever. Acidity. Good acid. It's like medium plus, higher in the medium, lower in the medium plus. It's kind of where we are. Um, it's definitely not lacking. I don't know if I'll get like fully medium plus, but it's like I'm feeling somewhere in the middle right there. No, yeah, I'm gonna call this medium plus. I mean, I see I feel the pull. Yeah, good acid. Really taut. A lot of tension in the wine because of that acid. Medium plus acid. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like we talked about this beautifully fresh beginning of the season, right? I mean, this is like just when the like strawberries start to come in the beginning of the season. Like it reminds me so much of that. Like when you go to the farmer's market, you get your first strawberries of the season. You get one of those little bushels and you eat that, and then it's like tart, but also like sweet is perfectly sweet. That kind of green part is also there. That kind of vegetable part, savory part is also there. Like it reminds me so much of that here. But that like beautiful acid, this is what like, mountain wine is all about. You know, it's like it's picked early, so it's fresh, it's high in acid. Yeah, that's exactly what this is. Very, very different style from if you remember last week. Both Petit Rouge, but very, very different style. Again, sorry, it's not that one is better than the other. It's all about your preference, but there's this incredible amount of freshness and tension in this wine, which I really enjoy. Tannin. There's some tannin here. Got some grip. Oh yeah. We call that about medium tannin. Really tight, fine grain, like a tannin. Nothing is like really chewy and rustic here. Alcohol. I don't know. I'm gonna call this about medium. 12.5, 12, 12.5. Yeah, it's about what you would expect from early picked mountain, cooler place, cool climate kind of wine. Body. Hmm, yeah, like lower end of medium, high end of medium minus. Not a huge body, but yeah, I'm gonna go with like medium. No mousse, obviously. Flavor intensity. Kind of like on the nose. It's kind of like higher in the medium, lower in the medium plus. Oh, you know what? I just poured myself a new glass. When I first pour it, there's a little bit of like that dissolved CO2. They're prickly. There's a lot of crunchiness here. Like it's just like, um, which I love. It's like that, you know, compared to last week's wine, this is like much brighter, crunchy kind of a style. Maybe you put a little chill on this thing even. But yeah, this super fun how different these wines are. But both of them are very good. But yeah, a little bit of dissolved CO2 on this thing, a little more reduction, a little more of that strawberry kind of green thing when you first pour it. But yeah, where were we? No mousse. I'm gonna call this a medium intense flavors. Um, doesn't seem as aromatic as expressive on the palate as it was on the nose, but solidly medium on the nose still. Like I'm smelling it here. It's like jumping out of the glass. But on the palate, I'm gonna call this about medium. Medium plus intense, and I am confirming everything. I mean, all the things I called out earlier, right? Like some of that little touch of the rose petal. There's something really pretty about this on top, but all the all the red fruit. I mean, again, I keep going back to that strawberry, wild strawberry, beginning of the season strawberry, but like there's some cranberry here, really beginning of the season, like a raspberry, not like super ripe, but like the just as time to come in, red cherry, but more than anything, like strawberry is where my mind really goes. But all that red fruit, essentially, no black fruit, all the red fruit, beginning of the season, a little bit that savory, kind of unripe green part of the, not unripe, but the green part of the, yeah, unripe green part of the strawberry and the fruit. And then the tension is what I really love about this wine. Yeah, there's like tightness, tautness on this wine. It's not just like flabby and wide and just kind of like, like lazy. It's just like really lean and just like tight. Um, the the rockiness is definitely felt here. The granitic influence is definitely felt here. Um, I get a little bit of like the wet stone, little like a little rock. Not hugely minerally, but definitely some rock here. Like I definitely do sense it. No secondary, no tertiary. Very very fresh, primary driven, really fresh, really bright kind of wine. Really enjoying this. Very very crunchy. Um, Finish. Oh, Yeah, it's like somewhere between that medium plus, kind of like on the nose and intensity. Yeah, it's like falling somewhere between medium plus, but being generous, let's call it medium plus. All right, conclusion. This one is balanced. Intensity, we called it what, like medium, high end of medium plus on the nose, medium palate, so about like a medium, just like above medium. Complexity, up a little about medium, right? Like we put a little flour, we have all the red fruit, some of that kind of like the unripe, savory part of the fruit, uh, minerality, so all of that. So I'll call it about a medium complexity, no secondary, no tertiary. Length, we also call that somewhere between medium and medium plus, right? Yeah. So balance, medium to medium plus intensity, medium complexity, medium to medium plus length. So when you take an average of all of that, it's kind of somewhere between medium to medium plus. You know, perhaps it's closer to medium than medium plus, but being generous, I'm gonna call this medium plus, so very good. But if you landed on good, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Yeah, it's just kind of somewhere in the middle, but I'm just being generous and calling it very good. Aging potential. I think this one is drinking beautifully now. Like that really freshness. This is kind of like drinking young, drinking fresh, drinking now kind of wine. But it does have a decent background, right? We call it like medium plus acid, borderline medium plus a high end of medium, low end of medium plus acid. We call it medium 10. So it's got a decent backbone. But I would want more intensity in this one if I was gonna let it age much longer, because otherwise all of that freshness is gonna turn into that tertiary non-fruit and non-flower thing real quickly, and you're gonna be left with no fresh fruit and a lot of tertiary. So I say drink this now, but given that decent backbone, I don't think this wine is going to fall apart anytime soon. So I say enjoy it now, and then I drink it now, and then enjoy it over next, I don't know, within the next 5 years or so. I think 3 to 5, I think would be just fine. Anything beyond that, you may start to see some tertiary and lose some of that freshness. And I just don't know if that will necessarily make this wine more delicious, because what makes this wine delicious is that freshness. It's that brightness, it's that freshness. So I wouldn't necessarily want to lose that, but I don't think you're gonna. This one's gonna fall apart within the next 3 to 5 years. That's my call. Uh, all right, let's play everybody's favorite game. If you want to pause the video, go ahead now. But how much do you think this wine is on a retail shelf, or how much would you be happy paying for this on a retail shelf? Pause the video if you want to guess. But this wine is 27.75 on a retail shelf, so just under 30. Um, given, are there other wines that are like this that are cheaper? Sure. You can find it in Alto Adige, right? Dolomites, some of these regions. We had some wines from Dolomites. Very similar vibe, right? It's just like different side. They're both up on the Alps. One's on the eastern side in the Alto Adige, in the Dolomites. The other, now we're in the Valle on the other side. Um, but very similar vibe, both high elevation, high acid, really taut, a lot of tension. But it was the same thing. Like the wines are not necessarily cheap when you go up to these regions, just because it's just high up in the elevation. So 27.75, but for what you get, I think this is delicious wine, really well made. Um, yeah, um, that's what we got. All right, I think that's all I got. If you have any questions, if you have any disagreements with everything I said, or if you have any concerns, you know where to find me. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text. But otherwise, again, I apologize about shooting out a recording for this thing this week. But yeah, and then we'll get started with our third wine. We're gonna have a guest speaker. So if you get to watch this before next Wednesday, know that there's going to be a guest speaker coming joining us. The actual importer who brings in Barro is going to join us. Christina Doria is going to join us. So hold on for that. Otherwise, have a Tomorrow's also a holiday, Martin Luther King. So hope you enjoy the long weekend, or you have been, and then enjoy the third last day of your long weekend. And I will see you all on Wednesday next week. Ciao.